Hi, my name is Valerie Price. I'm doing 2008 style video blogs. Tonight, I went to see a movie at the AFI Film Festival, and I don't want. Nothing's like official yet. I don't know what I like should say or whatever, but I will say I met someone who I admire as a filmmaker. Probably my number one. Like definitely right now my number one, maybe all time. Someone I really admire. And they had seen my work and they said it was fantastic. They saw a rough cut of my movie last week. They said it was fantastic and it was the best feeling in the world. It was amazing. And they said a lot of other nice things. Some things might be happening. Well, I shouldn't talk about that, but I had a very nice night and it was very legitimate. You know what I mean? You write a movie alone in your bedroom for years. You raise very little money, like enough to make a movie, but you know, I'm not all Hollywood. And also, hang on. Excuse me. I'm not all Hollywood, and it was very exciting to be validated and to be in at the Grauman Chinese Theater meeting my hero and having them look me in the eye and say really nice things to me. And I got to see a really good movie, and I got to meet the girl who made it, and I asked her some questions about it. One-on-one. I was surprised by her answers. I thought her answers would be weirder, but her answers were very normal. So that was on me and my expectations. This is my Pose coffee mug. I know, right? That's a thing I own. Also, yeah, pumpkin. I was saying. So one other thing I wanted to do is lately I've been at the phase where I had my first rough cut finished about a week and a half ago, give or take. And that's the first time I see my movie. And I don't think there will ever be another time I get such a big dose of dopamine, because it was 80 minutes of seeing the first cut of the movie, and from now on I'll see variations on that 80 minute. So it was the first time I saw my movie. And it's been an incredible experience for me, to be honest. Like I spent so long imagining it, and now it is real. And I've seen it, and I like it, thank God. And that's been a really weird experience for the following reasons. One, when you're writing a movie, you don't always know what it's about. One time I took a class with Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall. And he said, you don't know what a movie's about till way after the fact. And then it's really obvious. And at the time he said that Brain Candy was about coming up in Hollywood. And at the time I almost wanted to argue with him, even though it was his movie. I'm like, there's elements of that structurally, but I felt like Brain Candy was a movie about ecstasy. I think probably Dave, like some of the other people were bringing what they thought. But in Kevin McDonald's mind, he thought it was a movie about coming up in Hollywood. When you watch it again, and it very much is the Hollywood story. And it was just very interesting that it took him seeing the movie. When they were writing it, they didn't think of it that way. But by the time they saw the movie, they knew what it was really about, and it was like what you were going through at the time. And it has been very weird to me. There's a lot about my movie that's been very interesting. But one thing that's very interesting to me is when I see it, things that on the page were not conscious, or they were in scenes. A lot of what the interesting things are is there were certain scenes I wrote once and I was done and I was ready to go, and then I spent like months on other scenes. So in my mind, I didn't like give as much focus to them. But in the movie, you don't know how long I spent on scenes. One is 3 minutes, one is 3 minutes. They're equally important, obviously. So seeing these certain scenes that I've almost forgotten about writing, that I wrote so long ago, thought they were perfect, and put them in the pile. Those things are a lot more significant, and a lot of things that were just kind of motifs are a lot more obvious. And it's very interesting that I'm seeing things that I maybe didn't consciously put there that I think are to me, very obvious. I wonder if anyone else would ever see what I'm seeing. I wonder if, I don't ever want to say what it is. I'd rather just see how people receive it without me polluting the data. But I wonder, excuse me, pose. I wonder, I should hold it like that the whole time. I wonder, even more so how this will be received, because it did make a sort of personal movie. I say sort of like I'm coy. I made a movie with some personal stuff in it. I think all filmmakers do. And it'll be very interesting to me if that comes across to people. Because one thing I've noticed about this movie is, although I think it is a very straightforward movie, and the people in my community that I'm close to have the same perceptions of it I do, I've noticed that when I show it to people outside my community, let's say, including fairly hip people, they have wildly different reads of it. Like cis people interpreting trans art, like not to niche myself or whatever, but it is crazy what people take away from it. It has been things that I never in a million years put there or thought anyone could take away. People are like, oh, this movie is obviously about this, and I'm like, you're on another fucking planet. So part of me is most of all just wants to release my movie so that I can talk about it. I mean, even if people hate it, I would be, at this point, I'm just interested in seeing what people make of this. Because it's a very different type of movie. To a lot of people. Like, I often say there's never been a movie like this, and there hasn't. But in a way there has if you, like, do nothing but watch weird Chinese art house movies from the mid-90s. Since I've become a filmmaker, people want to talk to me about film more, which is cool. I love talking about film. And in my mind, I feel like I've seen every movie and I know everything about film. But then someone comes up to me and starts talking about some blind spots in my oeuvre. Like, for one thing, I just don't dig on horror movie a lot. Certain horror movies, my top 5 favorite movies are probably all horror movies, like Battle Royale, Class of 1984, Class of 1999. Like, these movies that are very much horror movies, Alien 2. But in general, I tried to watch Saw with my wife for the first time last night, and it was fun at first, like, oh, Princess Bride guy, they're trapped in a room, but then they start doing backstory, I'm like, and it's just like, it lost me. I didn't make it to the end of Saw. It was, people like, oh, it's so gory, and it's like, I don't know, like, I guess, like, it's cool if you like it. I mean, Dashcam, I love that horror movie. But when people try to talk horror, someone was like, "Oh, Unfriended 2," and I'm like, I don't know horror. And it's very weird to, like, people come to me and expect me to be an expert. And in my mind, I feel like an expert. There are certain blind spots. And it's also frustrating because, like, the things that I am obsessed with, no one. My niche interest, my specialty that I'm obsessed with is like mid-90s Hong Kong romance films. And I could name like a bunch of titles you've never heard before, like just to, like, but no one ever is like, what's your favorite niche 19? Like, it's like frustrating to like think of myself as a film nerd or whatever, but like not be able to talk about horror movies or movies made before 1970. Whenever people are like, oh, did you watch this Truffaut movie? I'm like, I like it. It's good, but I don't want to watch it. It is boring to me, to be honest. Like, I mean, I don't even know Truffaut from Godot. Like, I sit down and try to watch him. I get 5 minutes in. I don't know. Maybe I'm a plebe. But if you want to talk about movies that starred rappers made between 2000 and 2010, I could go like for hours on that. And not in a corny way. There are some real auteur gems. Lawrence Page. Lawrence Page is, if you have one name, he was the Stanley Kubrick of hood films. He tried to do some really interesting things, and I compare him to Neil Breen in some ways, although not exactly. And the fact that he was an outsider artist making outsider art, and thought he was saying one thing, but he actually said a lot of weird personal things about him. And when you watch it with that eye, I love movies where you can like figure out the person who made them, and like there's like a soul and a personality, and you're looking at a human being. And I think he accidentally, in some ways, tried to make a movie about being a gangster rapper and made a movie about like his own weird issues. I'll just say issues. I'll let you explore the movie for yourself. But in my entire life, my favorite genre of movies that I could talk about for hours, I met literally one person ever who could talk to me, and they were a art house director from Taiwan. They were my friend Pete, and they like knew who Eric Kot was, and they hated him. Which was funny. I'm like, have you seen Eric Kot movies? And he was like, that's not a cool thing to be into. They call him the Chinese Jim Carrey, and unfavorably. He can be very big and silly. However, he directed this movie First Love, The Litter on the Breeze, produced by Wong Kar-wai, cinematographer Christopher Doyle, starring Takeshi Kaneshiro and Karen Mok. It's the most amazing movie ever. And it's influenced by the French New Wave, I guess. I don't like the French New Wave. I like it. I don't dislike it. But the stuff that's influenced by it, I fucking love. And it's really weird to love something, like, I don't know, maybe, whatever. Maybe it's not weird. But, yeah, the other thing, this goes, man, these video blogs go fast when you're constantly smoking that weed all day, as Cam Mateo would say. That's what I just did. Excuse me. Yeah, and the other thing is that I want to talk about is people keep asking me what projects I'm working on. I think it's a really interesting question too, because when I first wrapped my movie, my brain was exploding with ideas for movies. I was so jazzed on like the rush of shooting, and I was vibing with my actors a lot. Me and one of my actors would get on Spaces and we would be like, we want to do Trans Fight Club, we want to do Trans Train Spotting, we want to do a mix of every 90s movie in like a crazy everything all at once way. It was like a big idea that I'm still kind of excited about that one. But as I had laryngitis for 11 days and I couldn't talk and I couldn't leave the house, so I got lost in my mind with this question. And I calmed down a lot. There were a lot of ideas I really loved, but I started thinking about it less in like what's an exciting idea and like what makes sense to do. After doing this movie that like could be perceived as highly political, and in some ways it is, but I don't think it's political in the way people think. I think it's, anyway, we'll get into that in a few months. But I want to make a point to like, I always want to make movies that mean something, and whenever you mean it's something that's fundamentally political, basically, right? So I want to make sure the next movie is like very, I want it to be about people who love music. And I know that sounds like very simple, but I like that it's simple. And I also think that question, because I've, been someone who music saved my life. Like music saved the life of people around me. I used to make music 50 hours a week. I played in bands. It was my obsession. It was like my joy, like my ecstasy. And and also like it also broke my heart, like it will, like nowadays, because what do you do with music? Like you make the most beautiful song ever. I spent a year on one song. It was a 7-minute song. Every 30 seconds, it changes genres. The melodies, it goes from like entirely electronic to entirely acoustic and back with like orchestral segments. And I thought it was like my Good Vibrations. I thought it was this epic, beautiful song. And then you put it on Bandcamp and you link your friends to it and like post it to it was before Twitter. This was like, it was even harder to promote music 10 years ago. Now that it's easy now. But, there's nothing, it's not like you send it to a record label, which goes out of business before they receive your demo. And maybe you perform it live, but my music was more composition based and I was proud of that. So it didn't translate to that medium that well as like, I was never sold on. I was not a big live music fan in my life, the same way some people are. Don't get me wrong, I do it all the time and I enjoy it okay, but composition was what brought me joy, a good recording. I'd rather hear a good mixtape than a good show, especially if you're a rap fan. There's no such thing as a good rap show. I've been to rap shows. It's usually just guys on stage, it's like smoking too much weed and like waving their arms and like I've seen great shows too, but like I've never seen a good rap show in my life. The closest I think ever was I didn't want to say it. I was Dilated Peoples. Just like not a cool rap group to be into. They were legit. I don't know. They put on a good show. But anyway, my cringe early rap taste aside. We still got a couple bangers. But anyway, absolutely lost my train of thought. On my next project, so I wanted to be about loving music, but then I also want other elements. We've been talking a lot about doing the Big Lebowski, like a Big Lebowski type movie. I like it because, one, it's about the most unemployed man in the world, which I was born to write. And two, I like the fact that it's one actor who's really good, doing a lot of different scenes with a lot of offbeat characters, which like lends itself to exactly what I do. I know all these weird ass actors and these interesting people, and I love writing like weird little scenes of dialogue and having the opportunity to bring in all my comedian friends and my like interesting sex worker friends and everything sort of in between that, and sort of a lot of outsiders, a lot of like autistic people I'm really fascinated by working with, because like that's my community. In a lot of ways, that's my community, not just gender-wise, but like I grew up with a lot of people close to me. Anyway, I feel like that is something really special that I like to focus on. And so I like it because I'm calling it The Bugs Lebowski's, the working title. It's a terrible title, but working titles always are. What was the working title for this one? I think it was just called Be Gay, Do Crimes was the working title for this movie, which, it was a working title. So I like it because it's fundamentally politically positive in a message that like I believe in, and I think I could go really deep on. I think it's a dangerous topic because like loving music is like fucking a Hallmark card, but I think the way that I approach it, I can really say something. I really think like it makes sense. I'll just say it makes sense, and that I'm uniquely suited to talk about it in the way I plan to talk about it, and to tie it in with a lot of other things. Anyway, and I like that it's a lot of different characters. I also like that maybe I could star in it? ? Like I have a weird situation where like I just worked with this actor, Bugs Matrix, like straight up, and working with her was the best experience I ever had. Not only because she was absolutely talented and absolutely rehearsed, but because she was passionate about it. Like all I really wanted in any project I've ever done is to be in a band with people who like the music you're playing. You know what I mean? Like I used to do sketch comedy, and the thing that made sketch comedy great is at the end of the night, you look at your like four comedy buddies who worked on this thing, and everyone cracked up, and you just are like, we did this. This is fucking great. Like I live for that shit. I love being in a band, and like when you're done with, like you look over it, like someone's singing a song you wrote, and you're like playing a guitar part they wrote, and you're just like, this is as good as life gets. Like this is what art is all about. This is what I'm in it for. Like this is just like joy. Like share joy with other people who love it as much as you do. And working with her has been amazing. So I wanted her to start in everything I do, and she seems down to. We've talked about it, and it went like Big Lebowski, Bugs Matrix. Like that's a pitch, but at the same time, like I don't know, like I want to be in movies. Like I'm writing really good movies. I'm getting funded. I'm getting heat. Like why pull my punch? There's like the lady I saw tonight directed her movie, wrote it, starred in it, and edited it. She was in every scene. And I admired that. Like it was when I met her after the show, I recognized her from the movie, and I respected her more. And it was her voice, and like it was her shit. So it is very tempting. But on the other hand, one, you could have two leads. I could be the Walter Slobchek of Big Lebowski. Not that that's like the sick dream I've had, but you know, I haven't even started writing it yet, so I'm not going to worry about like complex casting decisions. However, I am like a possibility for it. Although, you know, I was a possibility for this one too, and I gave it to Bugs and Spite because, like, of course I did. They're movie stars. Anyway, I could be a movie star. But let me write the script before I go. But the bottom line is my next movie is going to be like trans Big Lebowski. I get annoyed that you can just put trans before any movie and it's a new pitch, but when you haven't written a word of it yet, let's just call it the trans Bug Lebowski. And the other thing that's cool about it is it would be a good opportunity to set it in my world, because like the Big Lebowski world is a very weird moment in time, scene, like goofy universe, and I think I live in one of those myself now. Like it could be, you know, you could do like polycule humor and all the weird little like house parties and like micro scenes and niches and like strange economy and like underground stuff, like the underground world that I live in, raves and houses and weirdos. I think it lends itself to like also because I get to write about basically being a hipster on the mission in the 20s, which was the most magical time of my life, and I can bring all that weird stuff from there, and I also get to write about my current life, which is like weird fucking LA, whatever I am world, wherever I live, you name it. I'm not gonna say how to describe it. And then also, yeah, and I get to like fucking have. And the other thing is too, most of the people I work with are great musicians. Bugs is a good musician. I'm a decent musician. I'm a great musician in some ways. I can't sing, which is sad, but I can perform, and I'm an amazing songwriter composer. Anyway, that's my plan. Is I'm going to make like a positive Big Lebowski, and that's what I've been up to. Anyway, I had a really good night. I met my hero. He looked me in the eye and told me I was a talent. I'm basically settling on an idea I'm comfortable with. I'm not like super excited about it, but you got to be careful about ideas you get super excited about. I think that I've had 10 ideas I was super excited about, and I woke up the next morning, and it was like the B sharps. There's a Simpsons reference, a deep cut Simpsons reference for you nerds. Anyway. I'm posted. I don't give a fuck. Stupidest thing I've ever done. But fucking with my estrogen lately. Estrogen's like any other drug. I have a relationship with it. Dosage can be really complicated because you're making choices and trade-offs. That's what they always say. Your doctor's like, there's going to be trade-offs. Like, you want this thing, but you got to give up this thing. You can either have perfect skin and big boobs, or you can have, you know, a super awesome sex drive. And often, what I'll do is I'll go off my estrogen and get my sex drive back, and then I'll feel ugly, and then I'll go back on estrogen, and I'll start feeling beautiful again, and then I'll be frustrated that my sex drive is. And it goes back and forth. It's a drag. It's a real fucking drag. Because, like, I want it all, baby. Or at least I just want to, like, you know, have those two things squared away. But last night I doubled my estrogen. And I've also the other option is this stuff called T-gel, which is like black magic, where you basically take testosterone and rub it on your Johnson. And it makes your Johnson work, but it also like is testosterone. So I'm injecting estrogen and like rubbing testosterone into my body. It's not the smart. Like it's like they're fighting each other. But when I just do estrogen, I look really hot. I start putting T-gel in, I start smelling, I start getting like masculinized or whatever, and I don't want that. And I had a point when I started. Oh yeah, and my point is I've been doubling my fucking estrogen and cutting T-gel, and I did that last night. And today I have been in like estrogen fucking space. I've been feeling feelings, crying tears, getting like I've also been like more nihilist than usual, which took me a minute. And I'm like, oh, I shot up an insane amount of estrogen last night. After taking a week off, I'm like, fuck at 1.8. Like syringed it right into my body. And today I've just been walking around in a fucking like I'm cool, but I just don't give a fuck about anything. It's crazy there's a drug that your doctor can give you to do that. I also take this drug called progesterone, which is just a straight up pregnancy drug that makes you feel pregnant. I like want babies and shit, and like progesterone's fucked up. It's the only one I would take recreationally. I feel like, excuse me. I feel like even if I wasn't trans, I'd be on progesterone because it's fucking like I fucking cry on that shit. I cry about my dead grandma for real. That's like more than once because I feel like she would have seen me. I feel like she was the only one who knew that I was gender fey from like birth. She just saw me and knew who I was. And then probably isn't true because I also saw a picture of her in blackface once and like one of her photo albums. So she probably would have sucked. But I don't know that, because she died when I was young, which is one of the nicest things a family member from that generation can do, because then you can just idealize them, which I have done. And that is why I weep. She used to, every night before we went to bed, we'd lie in her bed together. And it was like the softest, most wonderful bed. And she would just make up stories. She would just make up fairy stories. And then she would hand it to me, and I'd be like, no, that's not what happens, Grandma. Like, this is how it goes. And we would just make up stories for hours. And it was the best experience of my entire life, and it always will be. And I wish everybody had a grandma like that. She looked just like Betty White, too. Like, uncanny. You put two photos next to each other. My grandmother was like Betty White at her most charming. And she was a goddamn artist and a goddamn fairy. And she taught me how to write stories. And I'm so high. But I can get much higher. Let's see how long this goes. I usually have like a hard 20-minute end of my blogs. Like, let me try something new. Because I don't give a fuck. Because I shot up my estrogen way too high. And I don't give a fuck about anything. Much less stopping a video blog. My brother knew this guy. He was a comedian. I won't say his name. But he moved to LA to be a comedian. He was one of those guys who was like a Mormon who was married at like 18, divorced at 23, realized he loved Rick and Morty more than anything, especially the Pickle Rick episode. It's a type. And he moved to LA to be a comedian, and he would do a live comedy show in his living room. I won't say the name, but it had a funny name. And I remember the first time I went there, one of my comedian friends was like, I'm doing a show. It's a weird show. Like, come, you might get a kick out of it. And we went, and Doug would set up chairs in his apartment, and there'd be like 5 people there. And then there'd be someone with a mic talking into a guitar amp, like doing their set because stage time in LA is great. Like, there wasn't a long line. It was like, and he'd get oddly good comedians. I forget their names, but like right now, but I saw a lot of like good middle tier comedians who have since gone on in Doug's living room in Hollywood. And it was funny though, because he would only be a comedian, and people would be like, why don't you get a day job? Because he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my lease and I can't get any job acting. And we're like, well, why don't you do anything else? Why don't you get a job? And he's like, no, it's acting or nothing. So and we'd go to these shows. Me and my brother would go all the time. And one time we were the only 2 people there, which was amazing. To have like a female comedian just be like, do you ever notice? And be like, oh, there's 2 people, and it's me and my brother. And we're just like, go on. The other thing is like this comedian would go at the end of the night, and he would do that kind of comedy that you can only see it once in a million years at open mics, where they're accidentally being the funniest thing you've ever seen, and they could never reproduce it. Like I remember one of his drugs. He'd always be like, hey, don't you hate in porn when they like have sex, don't you wish it was just cuddling? Do you know what I'm talking about, people? Do you know what I'm talking about? He'd be like, do you ever fall asleep standing up? Like, he just had these like weird like Mormon fucking just like, and and me and my brother thought it was the funniest shit. We went all the time, and we'd just be like dying. It was once a week. We'd have phases. We'd go a couple weeks and we'd like wait 6 months. But we should go back to dogs, especially when we had like a good comedian. But then he got to the end of the month. He's like, and we saw the one. We hadn't gone for a long time, and we saw it on like social media, like the last one, because I'm getting kicked out of my apartment. And we went to like the last show, and me and my brother were like the only people there. There weren't even any comedians, and he was just like, "Fuck, I can't. I gotta live in my car now. Like, I don't have a plan." And my brother was really nice. He's like, "Why don't you just come like crash at my house for a couple days till you get set up?" He was a really nice guy. He just met this guy like randomly doing comedy, and he like let him stay at his house. And he came there and he stayed there, and my brother loved it because they would like do Ben Folds 5 covers, because someone who's obsessed with Rick and Morty plays Ben Folds 5 covers. It's tight. And he would do the Pickle Lick voice all the time. It was the worst thing about any human being. And so when he would live there, my brother would be like, he's like, "You can stay here for a couple days, it's cool." And my brother would go to work, and then he would get an alert on his phone, Facebook Live, and Doug would just be like smoking weed. He called it like Doug's Nugs Live. And he would just be smoking weed in my brother's apartment, being like weed streamer, and just be like, "Yo, dog, I'm smoking weed on like Doug's Nugs." And it was so stupid. And then my brother would get home from work and he'd be like, "I look for a job all day. I look for a job all day." My brother was like, "What? I saw Doug's Nugs." It's just like, you in my living room. And two, like, I don't care if you look for a job. You can stay here 5 days. I don't like care if you have a job. I don't know you. Like, this is like a free bed. Like, you don't know me. Like, but every day Doug would come. He would stream Doug's Nugs morning till night, and then at the end of the day, make up stories to my brother, like my brother was his mom or something. One thing that's weird about progesterone, it also makes your weed hit harder. Easily, I don't know if it's the best thing about it, but it's goddamn up there. And bloop. And I wonder if cis guys could take progesterone and get more stoned. Like, if that became a stoner thing, like take pregnancy drugs to get your buzz up. Because I don't think there's anything bad about progesterone. It makes you hornier. It's supposed to make your dick bigger for real. And it gives you like really good feelings, and it makes you feel pregnant in like my friend Nikki always says, in like a breed me way. I don't know what that means. I've never understood the phrase breeding. I know what it means, obviously. I've been on the internet. I'm gonna do some sugar-free caramel, but maybe I just found it like corny and distasteful and inaccurate. I feel the way about a lot of sexual terms, especially some of the weirder trans ones. Like when someone says gawk, like girl cock. I do not like that. I do not like it at all. Say whatever you want. But my strong opinion is, somebody said that when they were having sex with me once, and I was like, you can just say cock. You can just say cock. It is a cock. You are a girl. You don't say girl boobs. You don't say boy butt. You don't put the gender, and like the young child gender, not like man. Like what would be like man guy, like woman cock would be wok. You don't say wok. I think I'm going to end on that note. Although, just for the lovers, I had 28 minutes. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. If anyone made it to the end, I apologize. This is the great experiment. This is a brand new pen. This is fantastic stuff. It's not weak. What is it? It's called Lolo. Well, last thing I want to say is tonight I'm going to see a movie by Alice Mayo McKay. She's this 18-year-old filmmaker from Australia who's like trans and does a lot of queer horror. And she's on like her like 5th or 6th feature film that has like played at Outfest, and streams on Shudder, and like she has a following. And like to be 18 years old and be on your fifth feature and all of them be legit. And I'm going, and like every good trans filmmaker is probably going to be there. Like Vera Drew is doing an intro, who did The People's Joker, which is supposed to be the best movie ever made. I'm dying to see it. And other people are going to be there. I'm not going to like say the whole list, but she's doing the intro, and like just to be 18 years old, I'm like so stoked to see this movie. I hope I like it. I'm pretty sure I will. Now that I've made a movie, seeing independent movies is a very different experience. The movie I saw tonight, like, not only are you enjoying the movie, but you're like, oh, that's, like, the way they're doing things is very smart. And, like, that is not lost on me, just as, like, an appreciator of craft. You know what I mean? Like, just, like, this whole movie, there were so many scenes shot in her apartment, shot on the street, shot walking down the street, shot at the beach. Every one of their locations was simple and cheap, but, like, in a way that did not detract from the story, which is very impressive, and in many ways added to it. Like, this movie wouldn't have worked on anything else. Just very smartly done. Like, a lot of cool choices. Also, the entire movie, all the scenes were, like, short. Some of them were, like, 1 or 2 lines. They'd be at an art show, they'd say one funny thing, cut, go to the next one. You could almost call it a series of TikToks, which it was not, but it was definitely fun in its structure in a way that I really get excited about. And when I walked out, I was talking to my friend, my producer actually, and he said, like, how long do you think a movie like that? How do you know when a movie like that is over? When you're making it, like when it's like 100 short scenes, and I said when it's 90 minutes. That's, and like I don't know, like I was talking to somebody else about structure in movies, and they were saying they were really intimidated by structure. And I was at first. I think a lot of people are, probably everybody. But it turns out structure, as I understand it, you see my movie and tell me if I nailed it. You just make sure a lot of stuff at the beginning feels like it's at the beginning of the movie, and a lot of stuff at the end feels like it's about to be the end. And everything else works. Like, I felt like this movie worked because, like, the first one was to get to know the characters, then there was just a bunch of scenes, and then there was, like, a say goodbye to the characters. And that, to me, was very simple and straightforward. But I feel like maybe film school or just, like, film dialogue or whatever has like convinced people that structure is difficult and complicated and this hard thing you have to master, and at page 15 this has to happen. And maybe at page 15 it does have to happen, but if you're writing a movie and you've watched a lot of movies, like, you'll just write the beginning, write the middle at the end, and then be like, oh, it looked like it went to about page 15. It was like the beginning. Like, it'll just happen. It did for me, and I'm not like, I think if you write a movie, it's always going to end up working out. It's more just pointing out things. Structure is more just pointing out things you would have figured out anyway. I've been watching a lot of YouTube with screenwriters lately. It's like my guilty pleasure. And most of them are garbage. A lot of them just give, like not very good answers. They aren't talking to other screenwriters. They're mainly talking to an audience in a way that, like, brings the question back to promoting their own work, which is smart and commercial. Like any Coen Brothers interviews, I love Coen Brothers interviews, but I never take anything from them. They never have, like, actual crafty insight. The best is Shane Black. Shane Black is just a craft nerd who, like, will explain how scenes work to a elementary schooler, just like in the middle of his talk about something else. He, like, compulsively loves explaining. And I learned more from him when I was starting out than I did from any book or any movie or anything else. Shane Black YouTube videos. Like, he just goes through, like, basic how reversals work, like how drama is created, like basic building blocks of stuff. But that's all you need is basic building blocks, so then you build with them. Like, all you need to know is that a scene needs to go back and forth and having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Someone has to be more powerful than the other person has to be, like, trying to get something from them, and it has to keep reversing. That's every scene in the history of film. And just having him break that down kind of over and over again in, like, the way he's very good with words, he's Shane Black, was the best way to learn. I'm not smoking enough weed. It's too much work. That's why dabs are good. I should be doing dabs. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to end. 34 minutes. It'll be bold if I post this. It is a dare to myself. Also, I look so cute today. I'm going to wear the same outfit tomorrow since nobody saw it, and I only wore it for a couple hours. I haven't worn this outfit in like a year. I've only worn it once or twice because it's like such a nice outfit. You can only wear it a couple times because these things are going to fall off. So I really try to, like, save it for special occasions. Tonight I was meeting my idol, so I put on probably my favorite outfit. Looks good too. I got like good midriff on it. Show off the old BBL. The OnlyFans way. Maybe we should do Chatterbait more. Well, the money's so bad. Even when it's good, they take 60%. They take 60%. I was making, I won't get into my numbers, that's gauche, but I was doing like, if they did not take 60%, I would do it 24 hours a day and it'd be a great job. But as is, it's just like not, it's not. It's 40% of, it's, you like when you work so much and you make like $1,000 and they give you $400 and you're like, I made $1,000. Like people gave me $1,000 so for me to do sexy stuff. And I am now getting $400. Like I work for every penny or every like 40% of a penny. Like it's brutal. All the streaming sites are like that. The only way it makes sense is if you promote your OnlyFans. Now that I'm on OnlyFans, I could probably sell scenes that way and build a thing. But I was getting really into it. Then my movie started, and I did my movie, and I got so sucked into it, I just lost my momentum. And then once you lose your momentum, you lose all your followers because you're not posting enough. And like they immediately go find other, porn. Not like sitting around waiting for me. But Mia Moore tweeted that when she made her movie, she had to take 30 days off making content, to make her movie, and she lost like 65% of her subscribers in a 30-day break. So I also did that same story. I took like probably because like I also didn't go back to it right away either. I'm probably on a 2-month break, and I like the momentum I had, which was like not huge, but I don't know, I got like a couple thousand followers on Twitter. I have sold like a good amount of, anyway, not to get all into the nuts and bolts of it. I was doing pretty good though. It's very satisfying. I had a dick pic, my first dick pic, at 25,000 views in one day. That's amazing. 25,000 people looking at my giant penis. Just like that number is unfathomable. The fact that people tweet and reach that much every day. The fact that most of my friends, actually, at this point, I think most of my friends are Twitter people. I've been very into Twitter lately. I've been addicted to this thing called Spaces, which is just basically a Discord chat that's open to anyone. And they say the definition of addiction is when you start being late for events because you're doing the addicting thing. And I think probably 3 times this week I've been like 10 minutes late because I'm like, I need to take a shower and like I need to have enough time. And I'm like, I'll do 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. Because like you don't want to, like one of your cool friends you haven't talked to in a little while pops in and you're like, oh my God, like I'm hanging out with like, Nikki or whoever. And shout out Ada, shout out Serenity, shout out Myra, shout out the Spaces gang, Luna, Maddie, fucking Nikki, I love you bitches all. Yeah, it's been a day. It's just like really fun to hang out with my cool friends whenever I'm bored. It's like 4 in the morning, I could touch my phone and suddenly my like 3 best friends are just like, oh my God, what's up? It's so addicting, and I'm addicted to the internet anyway. So like all my friends are Twitter people now because they spend all day in like Twitter spaces. So everyone I know is from Twitter now. So all my friends like talks to 20,000 people a day, which is like not a big deal. Like it doesn't matter at all. They're pretty much just mostly promoting porn or just like shit posting. Nothing anyone does matters. It really doesn't. But like when you step back and you think like literally imagine 25,000 people being like, oh, that's a huge dick next to huge boobs. Like cool, thumbs up, like. It's just odd. That's like more the population of. There's more people I met in my entire life. Anyway, the thrill of exhibitionism aside. One for the road. I'm doing a podcast. Cut back in. I am going to go. Love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's really nice rambling at you. We should smoke weed more. You're fun to smoke weed with. Maybe we should just do like POV stoner, like ASMR. Like I'm your cool stoner fucking tranny. I could do like Chatterbait style. Something like, oh hey, won't you? I'll work on it.